expansion was discussed both at a committee level and at the board, and ultimately the league office was tasked by our board with doing an in-depth analysis.
Imagine setting a table for the most expensive party in broadcast history, only to watch an unexpected guest walk in, pull up a chair, and completely take over the room. That is precisely what occurred when the rating reports hit the desks of major television executives after a landmark network broadcast. A mind-blowing 3.8 million viewers tuned in on NBC to watch a single player step onto the hardwood. Metrics like that do not merely break existing records, they completely obliterate the carefully calculated projections that media planners spent decades fine-tuning. While standard regular season sports properties were fighting for every scrap of audience attention, a rookie phenomenon pulled in primetime numbers that made veteran television heads drop their coffee cups in sheer disbelief. When 3.8 million people tune into a game on a network like NBC, it sends massive shockwaves through every corporate boardroom in the entertainment industry. This was not some brief viral highlight or temporary internet trend, but a solid block of viewer retention that outstripped dozens of high-profile men's regular season matchups. Major television networks quickly realized that every time this specific athlete tied up her sneakers, the broadcast meters went into absolute overdrive. Corporate advertisers who historically viewed non-traditional broadcasts as secondary filler suddenly found themselves begging for 30-second ad spots at inflated prices. The market demand blew right past every ceiling, proving that traditional sports marketing logic had been turned upside down in a matter of months. Behind closed doors at league headquarters, the internal mood was an intense mixture of shock and corporate calibration. Commissioner Adam Silver has spent years carefully protecting the premier status of the league's flagship product, managing multi-billion-dollar corporate partnerships and marketing global superstars. But watching a rookie pull in broadcast numbers that rivaled marquee matchups created an unprecedented strategic headache. While official public statements remained glowing and supportive, league insiders whispered about deep private anxiety over the clear contrast in viewer trajectories. Silver found himself confronting an uncomfortable reality. The single biggest drawing card on hardwood television was not one of his heavily promoted multi-millionaire veteran stars, but a transcendent talent operating in a league that was historically treated as an afterthought. The timing of this ratings surge could not have been more chaotic for top league decision-makers. The front office was locked in tense negotiations for a massive 11-year, $76 billion media rights distribution package involving broadcast giants like NBC, Disney, and Amazon Prime Video. Network executives pointed directly at those 3.8 million viewer figures as ultimate bargaining leverage, demanding prime-time broadcast slots dedicated exclusively to the rising stars' schedule. Suddenly, legacy broadcast scheduling priorities were thrown into complete chaos. TV brass were openly asking why they should pay top-tier rates for regular season games, where top male stars might sit on the bench, when a single player could guarantee millions of locked-in viewers without missing a single date on the calendar. This dynamic thrust a growing frustration right into the spotlight: the contentious issue of player load management. For years, sports fans and television networks voiced frustration as premier men's stars sat out nationally televised games for rest, leaving high-priced broadcast slots flat and uninspiring. Then along comes a relentless force who plays full speed every single game, takes physical punishment, and delivers spectacular plays night in and night out. Broadcast executives saw this level of dependability as pure gold. They realized they could build massive multi-million-dollar promotional campaigns around her appearance schedule without worrying if she would suit up, creating a sharp contrast that put pressure on league management to address their own product reliability. Naturally, an explosion of media attention this sudden was bound to spark fierce pushback within professional basketball ranks. As national sports networks shifted their cameras almost entirely onto one individual, quiet jealousy erupted into full-blown public conflict. Veteran players who had spent years laying the foundation for the sport watched as every morning debate show, sports talk segment, and digital trend centered around a newcomer. On the floor, the tension spilled over into hard fouls, icy post-game press conferences, and subtle remarks that set social media ablaze. What was happening on the hardwood was no longer just athletic competition, but an intense struggle over media exposure, respect, and economic influence. Media outlets pounced on every physical encounter, turning routine hard fouls into multi-day national sagas. When high-profile physical plays went down, sports morning shows analyzed every angle as if dissecting crime scene footage. Certain analysts claimed the rookie was taking targeted hostility from bitter opponents, while others insisted she was simply receiving standard professional welcome physical play. Public commentary from basketball legends like Cheryl Swoops and other prominent voices was picked apart word by word, generating millions of digital impressions and driving broadcast ratings higher. The continuous media circus proved one thing beyond a shadow of a doubt. Whether people tuned in to root for her success or pray for her failure, they were clicking and watching by the millions. The economic disruption extended far beyond television control rooms, tearing through physical stadium operations and venue management. Arenas that previously struggled to fill upper-deck seating found themselves sold out weeks ahead of time. Opposing franchises recognized the financial goldmine and immediately moved scheduled home games into massive NBA arenas to accommodate the overwhelming demand for seats. Secondary ticket exchanges saw baseline prices skyrocket by hundreds of %, with upper bowl tickets commanding prices usually reserved for championship games. Parking lots, concessions, and team retail stores posted record revenue figures every single time her team bus pulled into a new city. Retail networks and apparel manufacturers were caught completely flat-footed by the relentless demand for branded merchandise. Her replica jerseys vanished from store shelves and online distributors instantly, leaving back orders that stretched out for months. Major online retailers reported that her product line was outperforming legacy bestsellers across multiple sports leagues, carving out a huge footprint in retail history. Kids, parents, and casual viewers packed into arenas wearing her signature merchandise, altering the typical fan demographic overnight. Entire families were filling seats, introducing a broad generation of sports consumers to the arena ecosystem, and forcing corporate marketers to reevaluate how they spend advertising dollars. This unprecedented shift forced Adam Silver and his executive team into a complex balancing act. On one hand, the massive influx of fresh interest elevated the profile of basketball as a whole, attracting blue-chip corporate sponsors and opening up global media licensing channels. On the other hand, it created an awkward internal dynamic where the league's historic core product was being outpaced in growth rate by an auxiliary league. Corporate strategy sessions focused intensely on how to convert this new wave of casual viewers into permanent fans of the wider basketball property, attempting to turn one athlete's viral pull into a permanent tide that raised all ships across the industry. As networks finalized their revolutionary television rights agreements, the undeniable impact of that 3.8 million NBC viewer baseline became crystal clear. NBC made sure that multi-year broadcast packages were locked in tightly around her game schedule for future seasons. Network bosses recognized that building prime-time weekend coverage around guaranteed viewer magnets was the smartest play in modern media. In an era where traditional cable networks are losing millions of subscribers every year, live sports programming featuring transcendent, must-see stars remains the absolute last standing pillar for real-time television viewing. The digital content factory kept churning at absolute maximum speed, dissecting every single three-pointer, press conference response, and viewership metric. Social media networks were filled with side-by-side rating comparisons, contrasting her game numbers against high-stakes playoff matchups, major college football games, and prime-time baseball coverage. Time after time, her viewership metrics held up or outright embarrassed legacy properties. Online forums turned into war zones over her true financial evaluation, with industry experts estimating her individual brand presence added tens of millions of dollars in real value to overall broadcast contract rights. Yet with incredible popularity came an unprecedented level of constant public scrutiny and relentless pressure. Every single low-scoring performance or off night was immediately seized upon by critics as evidence that the national hype was artificial. The intense pressure of holding the rating expectations of an entire sport on her back could easily break an ordinary athlete. But she answered critics with long-range logo shots, triple doubles, and sharp court vision. That physical resilience only fueled the fire, keeping both passionate fans and stubborn doubters glued to their screens every time she brought the ball up the court. Behind closed doors, executive teams from rival sports properties watched this incredible surge with intense curiosity. Major decision-makers across golf, racing, and international soccer started studying the exact mechanisms behind this sudden rating boom. They realized that traditional sports fandom, anchored strictly to geographic team loyalty, was surrendering ground to athlete-driven interest, powered by viral digital clips and charismatic individual star power. The rookie was not just putting up points on the court. She was rewriting the exact formula for how modern sports entertainment is produced, marketed, and monetized in the digital age. As the season rolled on, initial resistance from league veterans gradually turned into a cautious recognition of the financial reality. Franchise owners who previously viewed host games as low-margin events were now enjoying sold-out venues, record-breaking food and beverage sales, and premium local television distribution deals. The massive wave of capital lifted player compensation discussions, expanded charter flight access, and forced executive rooms to rethink long-term league expansion strategies, proving that the economic boom was simply too big for anyone to ignore. The historical legacy of that 3.8 million viewer broadcast on NBC is much more than a temporary metric on a spreadsheet. It represents a line in the sand, marking the exact point where modern media priorities shifted away from corporate legacy structures toward raw talent and charismatic draw. Executive teams at every major television network now understand that real audience attention cannot be artificially forced by traditional league PR departments. The viewers spoke clearly through their screens, leaving network leaders and league bosses with no choice but to adjust to the new reality. The hierarchy of basketball entertainment has experienced a permanent shift, forcing league administrators and media executives to rewrite their long-term growth plans. Relying purely on traditional league branding without individual drawing power is a strategy of the past. Today's sports landscape demands captivating talent, relentless availability, and electric performance that can pull millions of casual viewers out of their routines and lock them into a broadcast. The only remaining question for league headquarters is how far this momentum will carry the sport, and whether the established hierarchy can ever truly regain control of the narrative. To truly grasp the scale of this television phenomenon, one must look at the structural reality of modern cable and broadcast television. For decades, major networks relied on standard programming formulas to secure steady viewership baselines. Regular season professional sports were guaranteed moneymakers, offering reliable filler content that attracted steady local ad buys. But as streaming platforms began pulling younger demographics away from linear television, networks faced a severe crisis. Traditional sports broadcasts were seeing steady demographic aging, and standard regular season games were no longer delivering the reliable audience peaks that corporate advertisers required to justify multi-million-dollar spending packages. Into this shifting environment stepped a collegiate phenom who had already broken digital and television records before ever stepping onto a professional court. During her final college runs, broadcast metrics began hitting numbers previously thought impossible for non-professional games, regularly beating out major men's tournament matchups. When media networks saw millions of fans following her every move from college into the professional ranks, they realized they were witnessing a complete shift in consumer habits. The old rulebook, which stated that professional leagues automatically commanded larger audiences than incoming rookies, was thrown straight into the trash. Network producers began adjusting their camera work, graphics, and broadcast narratives to highlight every single moment she was on the floor. Telecasts started using specialized player tracking graphics, logo three-pointer distance meters, and dedicated camera angles focused on her reactions on the bench. Broadcast teams were instructed to treat every game like an event broadcast rather than a standard regular season fixture. This elevated production value gave viewers the feeling that if they turned the channel, they might miss a piece of basketball history, creating the ultimate retention loop that kept audiences glued to their screens through long commercial breaks. This production shift created immediate tension with legacy sports production crews who were accustomed to balanced team coverage. Critics argued that focusing so heavily on one individual diminished the team concept and insulted veteran teammates who contributed heavily to victory. But the television control room numbers did not lie. Whenever broadcasts shifted focus away to analyze broader team strategy or feature other players, audience engagement metrics took a visible hit. Network directors learned very quickly that keeping the lens locked on the primary star was the direct key to holding millions of casual viewers through all 4 quarters. The financial repercussions hit stadium operators with immediate force, altering the ticketing industry in ways never seen before. Major ticket brokers reported unprecedented bot activity and immediate sellouts the moment scheduled dates were released. Fans who had never set foot in a basketball arena were paying premium prices for lower bowl seats, driving up local hotel bookings, restaurant sales, and parking revenues in every city her team visited. Municipalities began recognizing the massive economic footprint of hosting these games, with city business councils actively lobbying league managers to secure prime weekend dates to maximize local sales tax revenues. This economic surge put immense pressure on league front offices to modernize their arena infrastructures and digital fan experiences. Older venues that lacked high-speed connectivity, premium luxury suites, and expanded retail outlets found themselves losing out on huge revenue opportunities. Team owners began investing heavily in arena upgrades, expanding branded merchandise shops, and upgrading concession facilities to meet the spending habits of an entirely new demographic of fans. The presence of a single-player, accelerated stadium infrastructure investment